The way we take care of ourselves is ever evolving.
And what we know for sure is that our mind and spirit are linked to our physical body.
And that our wellness seems to extend into our communities and the planet we all share.
It is very, very clear that wellness is interconnected.
We love spending time with you to explore and practice the breakthroughs, the insights, and the passions of incredible people helping us all see the world in a whole new light.
This is Health Gig.
Dora and I are so excited today to introduce to all of you our great friend, Mikel Blair, who is the creator and co-founder of Modern Revival. You're going to learn all about this incredible program that she has created. Mikel, welcome.
Yay, thanks for having me.
So glad you're here.
I am thrilled to be here.
Tricia and I have been looking forward to this podcast for many reasons, but first and foremost, you are a beloved friend of ours. We love you. We admire what you do. But before we start in on all the interesting things you've done and that you're doing, I want you to tell our listeners a little bit about you and then how you got interested in the work that you do.
The $1,000,000 question.
Right.
So I've always had a passion for health and wellness and everything that can support our health and wellness and feeling good. Good feeling people do good in the world. And through a very not straight path of different adventures, I was able to really stumble across this conscious leadership work over a decade ago. It was just transformational. How I landed here today, I don't know. I was just this like doe-eyed young woman, newly transplanted to the DC area from Oklahoma, and had the immense privilege and blessing to meet you two wonderful women who were inspiring and ambitious and doing important, impactful work in the world. I mean, that's contagious. And when you are with inspired women, you know, that energy begets energy, and you want to drink the same Kool-Aid. You want to wear the same stuff. I wanted that. And your universe of friends were so sweet to adopt me and bring me into their world under their wing. And then really we just all kind of accidentally started learning about not just our physical wellness and longevity that now is such the buzzword. You two were pioneers in doing that back then. You were doing it way before it was trendy or hip or cool. You were country before country was cool. And so, yeah, you were Health Gig before Health Gig was even a thing. But part of that journey we've learned over the years is not just our physical well-being. We are not just beings that we protect our mind. We actually have a whole being. And once again, you two have been preaching about this for a long time. I say preaching, really talking about. I'm going to be careful when we talk about revival because we're not religiously affiliated, but you certainly were teaching about this. And we know now just the vital importance of part of having a healthy mental being is being surrounded by other healthy people and having healthy relationships. And I just knew this was so transformational in my life and in my community that now's the time to make this accessible for any one woman who wants it.
When you talk about conscious leadership that we all took part in, it's an organization, right? What would you say? It's group teaching?
Yeah, I think it's a very special group of people that started this practice of teaching exercises and tools and bringing people together. And it is just one of many modalities, right? We know Byron Katie's been doing this. The Hendricks Institute has been doing this work for decades. I mean, they were on Oprah in the early 80s. We've got, Yes Now, Brene Brown, but Conscious Leadership Group was what their main focus was and is corporate, which is a great model and a great strategy. And it was a mutual friend of ours who asked them to experiment with what would this look like in actual playground of community of friends and a real neighborhood of people that aren't just working together in a professional setting. It was that curiosity and I guess really that experiment that we were able to have a place for the first time to put all of these other practices in motion, in action.
So it's this idea that people get together, and in this case with Modern Revival, it's women that get together in an intentional way. And as you say, it's a place kind of where we can go exercise our relationships. We can go exercise who we are from a mindful kind of place, right?
Yes.
And what's so amazing about it is that you get, and what you're teaching us through your curriculum is that it can be done and it can be fun. It can be, as you refer to it, as a playground. You know, because Dora and I were talking, we're like, how do we describe this? And so that's why we were so excited that we can sit here and figure out how do we describe this place, this gym, this, what is the other word? Gathering place where I can go and be with other like-minded women and have a curriculum that we follow that you created along with Courtney, and how you guys did that. And we have to say, it changes our lives. The concepts that you bring up and the ability to sit there and actually work on them. My hope is that we can get to it. You know, like,
Yes,
what is
thank
it?
you.
And
Thank
Dora
you.
and I were saying maybe we could pretend we're there for a minute. Like we
Yeah.
walk in.
Yeah.
Dora's like, well, tell me,
Yeah.
what's it look like? And okay.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. So that is really well said. We are an intentional community of women who meet on a regular basis to practice exercises and tools for self-growth. And we believe that self-growth isn't meant to be done alone. It requires the presence, and we believe really in physical presence, in community of others. Other like-minded, curious women who are open to playing and who bring that growth mindset. You know, this work, anytime we practice waking up to our personalities and our blind spots, it can feel like a heavy lift or scary or like it's work, right? We go to therapy. If anyone's had the privilege of going to therapy, you're not all, laughing and celebrating every therapy session, right? We believe this can be done in a very lighthearted, playful way. And if we can't do that, if it's really when we're not practicing presence that we're taking ourselves seriously. We did design this kind of curriculum, if you will, these practices very intentionally to be something to look forward to and not a heavy lift, because if it's
That's
work
great.
and if it's not fun, I'm not going to stop on my way home from work to do
Yeah.
it. This needs to be comforting, not chaotic.
I think that's great because sometimes those group things can be intimidating. Let's talk about some of the concepts, like some of the things that you actually do in the class. And Tricia and I were talking about, I learned by osmosis from Tricia all the things. And she was talking about above the line and below the line and things like that. So let's talk about some of the things that you are teaching in that group.
and I will just add that, and Michael, you say this so well, is that these are tools that we can use on a daily basis in our relationships with others and also ourselves, and how then we can create a life that we love and become healthier in
And
our
happier.
relationships. And as we've talked about a lot, is the Harvard study that they say that good genes are nice, but joy is better. And Dora, how long is the Harvard study? Or maybe you can share
It's
that.
been over 85 years. It's ongoing. It started with men, Harvard grads, in the classes of 1942, 43, 44. It's developed and, of course, added women, thank God. It's now ongoing, continuing. And the thing we learned from the Harvard study is that there's a correlation between deep relationships and well-being.
It is the indicator of how long we live, our health span, how long we live in a healthier kind of environment. People that are lonely die sooner. People
Yeah.
that are lonely have more chronic diseases. This program, Revival, Modern Revival, is open to all people, right? All women to come in and to join in a community and learn about themselves. So, okay, just wanted to say that again.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
so that we
so
could be
fascinating. I
clear.
love that they're continuing this study.
Just to add to that study, it was half Harvard men, right, Dora, and half very, very impoverished back in the 30s. So they intentionally did two different groups and followed them to see what makes people happy. And they found that the common denominator is relationships, good, healthy relationships, and that it actually takes effort. And that's why we love Modern Revival, because it gives us a place to actually practice something that's going to make me live longer and happier.
Yeah.
While we offer a broad toolbox of tools, we are not teaching anything new. This is not original content. We believe, Courtney and I, who is my co-founder, and she's out in Santa Barbara, when we were imagining this and envisioning it and reflecting in our core of why this resonates with us, in particular, she and I, it's because we believe women are leaders by the virtue of being a woman. And women, we all have inherent wisdom we simply distract ourselves from. Maybe that's a better line to actually start with when I explain this. We all have inherent wisdom that we simply distract ourselves from. And without an intentional time and place to be and practice being present and intentionally listening to our inner knowing, we forget that we have all of these tools. So we are the place where you come to practice and remember and remind yourself that, oh, I do know the answer to this dilemma. I actually can see my role in how I'm co-creating maybe some drama in my life. So we like to say that revival is a reviving of who you are. It's a reclaiming who you are in the presence of other people. It's really that simple. We're not teaching anything new. We're simply reminding people how to live their lives easier and with more ease and flow.
I think it's so important to take the time and to make the space to do that, because we're sort of on this fast train to nowhere all the time. If you don't take the time out, you're never going to grow in any way. You're just going to keep in the same repeated patterns.
I've said sometimes, like, this is a place to get off the treadmill and find your own path that you forgot you wanted to be on. And it's easy to get on the treadmill or the hamster wheel and forget to listen to ourselves. So this is a place where we meet to intentionally listen to ourselves and each other and help reflect, like I said earlier, wisdom that we actually are getting from our bodies and from our hearts and without quieting the mind. And that's how we differentiate ourselves in Modern Revival from maybe some other organizations, is we believe that everything stems from presence and action. So yes, mindful, we say some of these terms, but what does it mean to be present in a moment of anger and threat? And so how do you actually integrate all of these amazing tools that we hear in the TED Talks and we listen to in the podcasts? Well, we need a playground to play with them, with other playful people who might want to play around with a concept like the drama triangle before they go home and try to teach it to their families because they're angry.
Yeah.
It's much easier to play and practice with a group who can cheer you on as you are wanting to vent and complain and whine about something. And we're like, no, make it bigger. We want more whining. I mean, how can you really blame this other person? But for them, there would be world peace, right? Like, we lean into it. The foundational tool we use is a concept of location. Do we find ourselves above or below the line? Do we find ourselves experiencing the world from below the line, where we are closed-minded, defensive? We are feeling at our core some kind of threat. Of course, we were born with a primal antenna for threat. We needed that to stay alive. But as we've evolved, we now confuse that threat to our ego. When we're experiencing the world from below the line, there's scarcity. There's not enough time, money, love, space. We're worried about losing control, approval, security, and we tend to get very defensive and serious.
We can identify that, right? You have taught us how we can identify that through some of the words we use. Like, you should do this, or they should do this. That's a sort of a below the line, right? Versus if I was above the line, I might say something like, what can I learn from this? I said to Doro before we started, because we were having some fun going through this, and I said to Doro, oh my God, all my checks are below the line. But that's okay, right? Because I've identified where I am.
Perfect. It's perfect. And actually, and let me just go back, because the true foundational differentiator from this work, when I say presence in action, it's that tuning into the wisdom of the body and our emotions and quieting the mind. Without that anchor, there is no knowing if you are above or below the line.
Yeah.
Right.
So I
okay.
apologize that I kind of skipped over that. And we spend, really like prerequisite before we get into the toolbox itself is that presence in action. And so without, the container of the toolbox
Right.
to
Yeah.
hold all the tools, there's no way to know. So the first way most of us leave presence is in our mind, because we're so unaware, we're unpracticed of remembering the wisdom of our body. So they'll go into saying things that are cues, like the shoulds, or blaming, or, oh, they didn't mean it. They didn't lead the drama triangle where they play the hero. Like, it's okay. They're only doing that because they had a bad day, or it's just the way they are, or we're blaming. Like, can you believe the idiot had the audacity to, behave that way? Or we are a victim and we're at the effect of the world, or, the system, or our bosses, our children, our partners. So these three roles, hero, villain, and victim, is another tool that we call the drama triangle. And so when we're new at practicing this, what we say can definitely be a cue. But the more practiced we become and bringing it into our daily life, I actually noticed my heart's beating faster. Why is my heart beating faster? Why am I clenching my jaw? Or, that's funny, I'm not breathing. I stopped breathing. What am I thinking about? So now I've got superpower wisdom. I'm listening to my body. I'm noticing there might be emotions. You have that inner wisdom begins to just, shine its light. And you get to stumble and fall and laugh at yourself, because there is no perfect way. And so these tools that we talk about of location, when we're below the line, all the learning is below the line. We get to bob up occasionally above the line when we're curious, but only occasionally. We are 99% so perfect below the line. And the practice is shifting. All the tools are for shifting.
So some of the behaviors that you've identified below the line, like avoid conflict, one might think that's above the line because I'm being nice, right? But tell us about something like that.
Oh, so we women are so good at wanting to make each other feel good.
Yes.
And the last thing we want to do is hurt anyone's feelings, God forbid. So we tend to bite our tongue, swallow our words, and we spend a lot of energy saving the other person from some discomfort of our truth. Actually, truth and honesty is an act of love. My real allies and friends, they want to be fully revealed to me, and I don't want them to spend more energy sitting on their hands, biting their tongue, because their love, their truth is actually going to help me grow. And so if they can act with courage and say something at the risk of me getting my feelings hurt, being afraid, being angry, if they can do that, and they do, my group of friends, we do this, it's such a gift. I'm beyond grateful for when I get a dose of truth from a friend and an ally. And we're not talking like, do I look fat in these pants? I'm using an example. I have some friends and we're all committed to this. This isn't something, you can weaponize this really easily with people who aren't committed to playing this game with you. You really want to play it with other people who are committed and open.
It's finding a tribe, or not that word, but a community where you can be who you are. And this revival offers this opportunity.
That's what you provide.
You provide this place that we can do this, and these practices or exercises that we can do it. And then, we take it out of the classroom, or we take it out of the revival room and we practice. We have to be sort of careful because we're just
They might be strangers that you're having these interactions with.
and
who
they're
don't
like,
want your truth, and they didn't ask for it, and they're not open to it. And this work isn't for everyone. There are, millions of people who really are good with playing it safe, staying in their lanes. Self-growth isn't for everyone, truly. Like, there are a lot of people who just want to stay on the treadmill, and that's okay. We don't judge them. That's there serving them, and it's making them feel safe. It's for those of us that are like, no, I want the freedom. I want to be able to know what I'm doing, and that way I can choose. I have more power of choice.
Modern Revival allows us a place to do self-reflection, allows us a place you meditate, a place to be together, but we are in community. That in itself offers so much. But again, it's fun and it's funny when we look
Playful.
at things playful. And another tool that you've taught us or that we've learned is the question is the opposite of my story true? Like how I know if I'm shifting, right? Is the idea that I believe something, then flip it. But
Yeah.
Dora, tell us your story. Dora was before we
Well-
were laughing so hard.
And that's
Mike.
Byron Katie's work too, just to give credit where credit's due. That's the work. It's called The Work by Byron Katie. And she's masterful and still teaches workshops.
And the whole idea is, again, just to repeat it. So here's something, my belief, I see this. My question to myself is, could I see the other side of that story? Could I make a story up? And it's okay not to be able to, right? Then you realize that too about
Yeah.
yourself. But it's when you're so emphatic about something, this is so wrong, or this is so such and such, that's a clue to maybe ask yourself a question, right?
Yes, when we find ourselves very right, we are
Yeah.
most certainly below the line, and we are going to find all the supporting evidence to prove that we are right. It doesn't matter who we step on, who we shame. I mean, to defend our egos, we'll go to the ends of the earth to be
mat.
right.
Totally. And I love the one where we enroll others to affirm our beliefs. So like we'll
Yeah.
even call people up and we're like, can you believe it?
Yeah.
Do you see that? Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
they're like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're
Yeah.
like, so sure. And then we come to our revival and we sit there and we're so sure about it. And then we're like, oh, can you see the other side of that? And then we're like, yes or no.
Yeah, but what you're describing is actually, believe it or not, like pretty advanced work. Like that is
Okay.
to get, yeah, no, truly, because really to get there, you must first start doing kind of
Good
the
point.
playing around with how often am I finding myself right? How firmly do I believe this opinion? As we practice presence in action, one of the very first tools we use is speaking inarguably. And how do we do that? How do we start to learn the difference between facts versus stories?
Yes.
That is really funny because facts are what we describe as what a video camera would record, and stories are everything else.
What would be a good example?
A good example would be a video camera would record that my husband flips on his turn signal at a stoplight. So we would all watch this video camera and see that he has flipped on the turn signal. And the video camera would record that there are no other cars behind us, going past us, going in the other direction. It is a very empty kind of speedway. And this particular car, I think a video camera would pick up on how loud the clicker blinker is. So I think it would pick up on the sound. It would pick up on the evidence that, no one's around to signal to that we're turning. And so those are all facts. Now, the
Yeah.
stories I create about them are, he is so annoying. He is so blind that he needs a blinker at the longest stoplight. We all know it's the longest stoplight in Bethesda, and it's going to be red for 2 minutes, and the blinker keeps going. And is he doing it on purpose? I think he's doing it on purpose just to see when and if I'm going to say something. And I'm just like, oh, there are so many other times he switches lanes and he doesn't use a blinker. Why does he do that? So the video camera couldn't record how annoyed I am, right? It can't record how oblivious he is. And he'll do the same thing with the windshield wipers. Like, why are you, like, that's like, so that is an example of all the stories I make up, and then I'm feeling anger and I'm annoyed
Yeah.
and I'm like, God, I'm never riding with you again. And then I end up saying something. I'm like, do you know that you've been sitting here for 2 minutes? Like, nobody's behind it. Why do you use your blinker? And I'm a real jerk about it. And he's like, okay, I was in my head solving algebra equations for a business problem. And I'm like, well, pay attention. Everybody else is really annoyed. Only me in the car.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
now he laughs and he does giggle because we practice this together. He laughs and giggles and we'll put it on sometimes. And then he's
Just
like
to be funny.
tapping his fingers and waiting for me to say something. And I'm like, really? Really?
So for Dora, do you have one?
Well, I have a story that happened recently, and it was someone who hadn't seen me in a while. She, oh, it's so good to see you, and this and that. And then she said to me, oh my God, your hair, I never imagined you'd go gray. I mean, I know your mom had white hair and everything, but you've got that older, sophisticated look going on. I sarcastically said, whoa, thanks. And in my head, I was like, oh my God, that is so rude. And, did anyone tell you your knees are sagging? Is what I wanted to say. I mean, what's going on there? Two people under the line?
Her definition of your whatever, how she experiences your hair was less than, I would say, self-aware. It wasn't why comment on what you think is obvious? Like,
Right.
That's not helpful content. And like add to the conversation, don't take away from the conversation. So you then have to consider the stories that you make up about her comments, right? Because you actually don't know. She was just obliviously blurting observations. And then just the judgments that we have about, I'm judging her. I'm feeling some judgment over what her observation means in our society and why we point that out. I mean, does she say that to men? Is she saying that?
Yeah, interesting.
Our stories, we could spend an hour dissecting or making up all the different meanings of that interaction.
What you shared with us too the last time we were in our group, we're missing then those moments, right? So we're giving up a whole lot for this story I've just created.
What's unfortunate about the story that you shared, Doro, is like that woman probably genuinely wanted to connect with you. She probably genuinely wanted to, like, oh my gosh, hi, it's been so long. I want you to know how much I've missed you and it's so good to see you. And for whatever reasons, she wasn't using her thinking brain and she actually caused more of a misconnection and a misfire. It'd be interesting, I don't want to harp on this particular story, but what's interesting is, okay, we don't actually need to practice this with every single encounter and every single person, right? I mean, that's why the revival, our modern revival space is the safe place to do it. We all committed to doing this. We all know why we're there. We live real lives with people not in these communities and in these circles. We go home, we take this knowledge and we're like, oh, I can reveal whatever I want to reveal in any moment. We'll know. I mean, that woman, but it would be interesting if I'm laughing at the sagging knees. Oh, I love your sagging knees too. Sagging knees again. I had no idea. I miss them so much,
Yeah.
But what I will say sometimes to people like new to practicing and giving like ouch, like it's a playful way to be like, oh, white hair, ouch. Oh, like, oh, interesting. One little not passive aggressive comment back of like, okay.
Right.
Which I did, yeah.
Well, no, I don't know if you did. You were
I was shocked.
Yeah, guard, yes.
But as Tricia said, when I told her the story, she said, well, you are older since you've last seen her, and you are sophisticated. So I said, oh, thank you. I'll take that.
She's very sophisticated.
You should host a whole thing on how we experience each other after it's been some time. Especially like even when I'll see my dad in months and then I see him and it's like, whoa, okay. Like it's like kind of a new re-entry, how we remember people, how we want to remember people. It could have just been, oh, I love your hair. You look stunning.
Well, then I would have known she wasn't authentic either because I was like sweating and, I just finished tennis and everything.
But I love the exploration. And again, I think this brings home what this is. It's presence in action. We just talked about was how we could become present in action.
Yeah. So the more we get to practice seeing ourselves in the reality as it exists versus how we want to see ourselves, how we want to see others, turning a blind eye at self-awareness and who we really are, we miss out. And without pausing for some real intentionality to listen to our inner knowing, our inner wisdom, we miss out on finding out what we actually really want, what makes us feel alive. How do I get it? How do I want to show up versus how am I showing up? How do I want to feel my aliveness? And it doesn't mean that you practice self-awareness and you're going to get it right or you're going to get it wrong. It's just more awareness brings more choices, and more choices offer more freedom. And our name of the game is allowing women permission to stop and ask themselves, what do I really want? What do I really want? Say that sentence over and over again, emphasizing each word differently. What do I really want? What do I really want? What do I really want? What do I really want. We just don't offer ourselves that vital necessity, basic necessity. And so therefore we get on the treadmill of our identity treadmill. I am a mom. I am a wife. Now I am a lawyer. I am a daughter. And we just miss out on this lived experience of our truths.
So true. And so when we are at Modern Revival and we are doing the practices, we're not known by our role. We practice being known by who we are authentically. And that's been one of the greatest teachings, I think, for me, participating in Modern Revival, is seeing that I'm not the roles that I play, but rather I'm who I am. And you've taught us that we have lights in all of us. And how do we live from that?
Yeah, who am I in this now moment? Who is here in this circle? Because who's here in this circle today might be different than the Michael that will be sitting in this circle next week. What am I bringing right now to this moment so that I'm not missing out on this beautiful women who have their wisdom that I can learn from, their gifts, and how do we help shine each other's lights? I get to see various geniuses from both of you, from being blessed to call you friends, and see ways that you show up that are just an authentic, organic genius. The way you capture a crowd, both of you, the way you hold presence and hold space. And those might sound silly if I reflect them to you. Like, no, I don't know that I do that, because it's so second nature to you. You do it so easily. It's an opportunity for me to say, no, I want you to know how I experience you in this moment. And that's just more for your learning. I think that for me, that being together is just in this way is radically supportive for ourselves and for each other.
Oh, I love that. Radically supportive for ourselves and then for others.
One of the things that I think differentiates Modern Revival from other kinds of supporting programs is the element of play. And we know that play is critical to our well-being. We know that one of the things on your resume is a wonderful center for play for children. I want you to talk a little bit about that, but I also want to know if you were inspired by that and if you had a light turned on that adults need to play also.
Yes, and yes. So thank you for bringing that up. It's such an important point, because if you were to ask even ourselves in this moment, but any woman, what's one of the ways that you were playful today? In the past, I did have a chapter of having a children and nature-inspired children's play space for families, and it was very special. And it feels silly telling you two, because you believed in me and helped me do that experiment, which was so rewarding. And we did host many, many people in that building before COVID, and lots of children. And you could watch these families play with their children, climbing up these mountains, through the trees, anyhow. But one of the ways that we are really vulnerable is when we're playing. The elements of playing is you have to feel safe. There has to be an element of surprise. There's no controlling. And all of the players have agreed to the same rules. So there's like a safety, but then there's also the vulnerability of like, okay, I'm going to, like little puppies, I'm going to roll on my back. We'll wrestle, I'm going to expose my belly, right? Like little animals do and children do. And that's how we learn. I mean, really, our connectivity and our hardwiring of how much physical exertion to put forth, right? So it's a really interesting notion that it is one thing to play, and it's another way to live playfully. Really, we can bring like a playfulness to everything we do. And so being silly in a moment when you're angry and having that practice of the pause. Okay, I notice I've stopped breathing. My jaw is clenched. I can see in my head, I'm witnessing myself have this experience right now. And I see the facts, and the stories I'm making up are, my husband is calling me lazy. He just basically said, I've heard lazy, whatever. And I don't know, I'm making this up. But if I don't feel like I'm pulling my weight, how can I, in that moment of self-awareness, make a choice to play or attack? There's a story where I was in our kitchen and I never allow myself to eat these stupid donuts. We get our older children donuts after hockey. I don't know if I told you the story. We're sitting with our son, our older children, we have a lot of them. I've watched these donuts on the counter all weekend long. I've done my job, and now it's Sunday night. I think I had a glass of wine, visiting with all of our kids. And I just casually open the box of donuts and I take one and I put it on a plate and I start cutting it in little pieces of like one bite at a time with a fork and knife. So my husband's sitting at the island and before you know it, I'd eaten the whole donut and I go to get another donut and we're just talking. And of course, I'm very vain about my weight, right? I mean, us women, I'm like waving the like, oh my God, why am I gaining weight flag? And he hears me complain about it all the time. And so he said, stop eating the donut. Like, just stop eating the donut. And it came out of nowhere and it hurt my feelings so bad because I heard, oh my God, he's either going to have to hear me complain about this. He's like, stop. I know you don't really want this donut. You're not being mindful. You're not eating mindfully right now. I felt shame. I felt anger. Like, how dare you tell me to stop eating a donut? Like, I will eat the damn donut. I'm going to eat the whole thing. I mean, I was fuming. I had to put down the fork and knife and go walk outside. I bet I walked around the block like, I don't know, 10 times. And I was fuming. I'm like, who does he think he is? I'm going to have the best comeback speech when I walk in the door. But I'm going to cool down first because I was so literally hot in the ears. I need to cool down. So I come in and I said, that really triggered me. Like, I have a million stories of why you said that, to stop eating the donut. Because he goes, where'd you go? What did you do? What were you doing? And I was like, I am so angry that you told me to stop eating the donut. I go, I just don't get it. I want to clear with you all the reasons. And he goes, you were eating all of it. I wanted one. And so I was like, oh, okay.
Okay, right.
And so I say that in jest, but like truly that could have created World War III between us.
Playful.
Right.
And so play is a great way to connect. It's a tool we don't use often enough.
I agree. It is a great connector. And I don't know why I deviated into a donut story.
I love the donut
It's a good one.
I do think that kind of living with that playful and how can we incorporate not just a playful mindset. And so we do play games in our circles and they are hysterical. For example, Tricia, we played Remember When? We were all there.
I was there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Dora, I told you about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember when we were all locked out of that parking garage that night at like midnight?
I remember that. And we went to the all-night eatery and we ate so many pancakes.
And then after that, we felt really sick. So we all wanted to just go home and go to bed. But there was someone in the car who said, forget it, we're going to the bar.
But then on our way to the bar, we saw a trampoline in someone's backyard. And we were like, we know we will feel better if we just jump on this trampoline with all of these pancakes in our stomach.
And then all of a sudden we looked and we're like, we're getting out of the car. And we're like, is that George Clooney?
And then everybody decided to stop the car, get out, and ask for his autograph. And he said,
I actually was here because I recognized Doro and I wanted to tell her that I hadn't seen her in a while and her hair was stunning.
And then Doro goes, oh, George, do you like my hair?
And he said, please don't ever change it. I only prefer sophisticated women.
That's so
Anyway,
good.
that was a great night. We had so much fun.
Yeah, exactly. So that is one of the exercises that we do at Modern Revival, right? To just sort of, again, bring in creativity, get people laughing, because when we're laughing, we're not stressing. When we're laughing, we're actually breathing deeper because we are laughing. We go, and we take in breaths. So play and laughter is a really good thing for our health and wellness.
Yes. I couldn't think of what I was saying except I wasn't listening to you, right?
Right.
Presencing, like that actually is another way of noticing your body in that moment. And then like looking, just reflecting on how fun it felt my body to just laugh like that. And I knew once I heard George Clooney, I'm like, oh, my energy went way up. And I'm so present and I'm here and you don't only have to meditate.
so Michael, let's say you're interested in joining Modern Revival Group. How do you do it? Where are they? Tell us the practical things.
We are launched here in Bethesda, Maryland. This is our headquarters, our first studio here in Bethesda, and we are hoping that this will be something that they see real value in from wonderful sources like your podcast, and that this will speak to them. And if they get, an itch that this is something that they know they need, right? We are here for them. So we want women to sign up on our website and join a circle. We will have a conversation. So when you sign up, you fill out a questionnaire, and then we have a conversation with everyone signing up just to do some diligence with, is this a right fit for a person at a given moment? We do not want to have anyone who is experiencing trauma and doesn't have the right kind of support, that this might not be for them at this time. We believe it is for every woman who wants it. And it's as simple as signing up, really.
Great. Well, we're going to put your website in the show notes because I'm certain that people are going to hear this and will be intrigued. Michael, thank you for coming on Health Gig.
Oh my
Thank
gosh.
you.
Thank you, ladies. It is so special to know you and call you friends and practice this work with you. It's just transformative. And I feel every time we're together, I feel more connected to you and more inspired. And it's always a blast.
Thank you for joining us on Health Gig. We loved having you with us. We hope you'll tune in again next week. In the meantime, be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast and follow us on healthgigpod.com. I'm Tricia.
And I'm Doro.
Be well.